Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I should see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today on the awkward day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, which doesn't seem to have a name. We'll call it, if it's Good Friday, we should call it Great Saturday or something like that, you know? That's probably, I don't know, that's like a lame, like, comedian's first stand-up joke or something, isn't it? Let's say I'm not a stand-up comedian, so I don't think you should hold my comedy in too high regard with that fact. But yes, what should we talk about today? I'm watching a bit of the new Glitch Studios animation. Gaslight District came out today. I didn't even realize that's why. I was like, I thought it's been out for ages, and I was like, I can't believe I've not heard anyone talking about it. I only heard people talking about it today. That makes sense. But hello there, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 5:49 p.m. on Saturday, April 19th, 2025. Apart from that, I just did more recordings, which I probably should upload to YouTube just to make sure we get them all ready, you know. I recorded some Another Crab's Treasure. I was going to record some more of other stuff, but then I was like, didn't really feel like it, to be honest. I made some tiramisu, if that helps. Hopefully it'll be pretty good. It's chilling in the fridge right now. But yeah, what are we going to talk about today? I don't know, to be honest. I didn't really play much of a Star Rail quest. I've just gotten to the first Anaxa portion. I assume there's going to be multiple. I'm not sure if that's true, but we'll see. I've not done much more of the thumbnail art since. It's something which I really need to like sit down and actually just like focus on as a thing. But I'll be honest, most of the time in this evening where I would be drawing, we've been playing a bit of Rabbit and Steel. And you might be like, you can draw while you're dead in Rabbit and Steel. And no, that's true, but I can't really draw the thumbnail art in Rabbit and Steel. The thumbnail art is something which needs a flow state, unfortunately. Well, I find it will need like a kind of sort of, maybe a flow state's the wrong word, but at least it needs more undivided attention. But slowly and surely, I'm chipping away at it. My goal is not to make it to 100 days. If we get to a month over, then, you know, that's fine by me, I think. We're almost at a month over, so I'm not really holding true to my word very well. So, yeah. Apart from that, what else has been happening? Rabbit and Steel made good progress. We started fighting or training, learning how to fight the Scholar's Nest on Luna. It actually went way better than Church Mouse Streets. The mechanics look a lot harder, is what I'd say with them, but I actually don't think they're much harder. To be fair, Church Mouse Streets, I also don't think, in the end, it was crazy difficult. I think some of the tether attacks are definitely pretty difficult, and some of them require a lot more coordination. But a lot of the teleport attacks, I think you can actually sort of cheese your way through. Even if you make a mistake, it's a lot easier to defensive through them, right? And the thing which is hard about Church Mouse Streets, has come to learn, is the fact that the DPS checks are so high for it compared to the others. But anyway, it's been a good time. We got very close twice to beating the final boss. It was just a little bit off each time. But that basically means, I think it's very plausible that the next session we do will probably actually defeat it. Like, it seems a lot easier. And then we'll be moving on to, I guess we'll do the Old Keep next. The wolf place. I don't know. Because at least my friend, she said that the hardest ones were Red Dragon House and Emerald Lakeside. Supposedly. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's in future. At some point, you know, we'll have to chain together, of course, doing 3 of the worlds back to back. But, I don't know. I assume the first world always is the hardest because you have you're least likely to have, like, a synergy or enough damage to really make it through, right? I don't know if that's true. Anyway, yeah. What are we going to talk about today? I don't know. I think some of my friends are playing some League of Legends Arena. They love the arena at the moment. Actually, no, they're playing some ranked at the moment. They have been doing a lot of ranked. That's not my scene. I'm more than happy for them to play though. Hope they're getting a climb on. I guess it must be the end of a split or something. I know that the League of Legends season has sort of changed how it operates. It's like divided into 3 now or something, and then it sort of resets every whatever amount. You know what I can talk about? This is like really random, I suppose. because I don't know what led me to this, because I think it was like I was thinking about the split. I mean, I was thinking about the Pokemon rank season, and I was like, oh, TCG Pocket, and it's got some crazy power creep, I suppose, in there. Then I can tell you, because this is a much more niche thing, which you'll probably not know about. But I play a game, Idolmaster Shiny Colors, not nearly as much nowadays. I played a decent amount with Step, but when, say, Halo was released, I've yet to play much of it. Mainly because I don't know how to play it well enough. I know this is so niche. It's basically the new go-to mode to create the strongest characters, but I can't seem to make very good characters in it, and I have no idea why. It certainly must. It feels like it's a skill issue, but I don't know what I'm doing wrong is the thing. And of course, the best guides are all in Japanese, which makes it quite difficult to really follow through. I'm not fluent enough in Japanese to understand a game guide in a different language. Anyway, the power creep is going absolutely out of control in that game. They have about, like, they really, really, really started heavily ramping up the predatory tactics in it. I would definitely not recommend you play this game of all the gacha games I play. But, like, I mean, they had, like, limited cards, which is, like, quite a normal thing. Then they, like, really up the rate of limited cards. Then they introduced a new type of limited banner, which was even more limited, called the Twilight Collection. And then they introduced another limited banner, which can run simultaneously, called the My Collection. And then they introduced another limited banner called the Parallel Collection. Which, you can see a trend here of all these different collections, where each of them, like, are meta-defining. Like, with limiteds, like, each new limited was not necessarily meta-defining, but really good on the whole. There were quite a few, actually, which were quite bad, but still. And Twilight Collection came out, basically reinvented the entire thing, made that slow process of each team getting the Twilight Collection card. Gave them each, like, a time in the spotlight, I suppose. Illumination Stars was crazy strong when their first Twilight Collection was that character. Then Parallel Collection came out, completely redefined the metagame once again. I will give you more details, but then I'd have to explain all the mechanics of Shiny Colors. So yeah, basically there's quite a lot of power creep in that sort of game. But they try to introduce some things to, like, rebalance. Like, they buff some of the older cards, and they give you bonus points if you use the card which is not used by many other people. But then they introduced Say Hello, and Halo, and everything just went out the window. All the team, like, Say Hello was so good at making strong characters that everything just sort of went out the window. That was interesting. And then they released My Collection, which actually was not as game-changing, I think, but has a lot of... Some cards are, like, insanely strong in it, and some cards are just pointless, is what I'd say. Or disappointing is perhaps a way to put it. And anyway, I say this because they've released a new type of limited banner called the Ultra Rare banner, which is one step up from the current rarest rarity in the game. Its rates is 1/5 the rates that we currently have in the normal cards, and supposedly it's like sometimes it can be limited, sometimes it can be permanent. I don't really understand it, to be honest. Supposedly these cards are very, very, very strong though, and they're so strong that you can only have one per team, essentially. That's how strong they are. They want to restrict how much you can do and use with them, which is interesting. I'm very lucky, I suppose, that the first card, which is released off its rarity, is not for neither of them are for a team I play in that game. Otherwise, I'd have to be like, this poses quite the conundrum for me, where I had to figure out what am I going to do, because I literally, the previous banner, just beforehand, was a banner for the team I play, and I was like, okay, well, what can I do about this? But it really gets you thinking about power creep, I suppose, especially in these, like, it happens with, eventually, kind of with any sort of game as a service, right? They kind of want to make sure that you play with whatever's new, whatever's shiny, whatever's fancy, and would get you spending rather than using what you already have. That's kind of part of a draw for the gacha games in general. Well, not that isn't the draw, that's perhaps a bit misleading, but it's more so that that's kind of what keeps people stuck in, unfortunately. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, I mean, I would say it's probably not really a good thing, but it's interesting to think about from the sort of a purely analytical standpoint, I think, because, like, it's a delicate balance, I'd imagine. From again, this is it's gonna sound adversarial to a consumer, because it is adversarial to a consumer. There's no ways about it. Like, this is straight up predatory monetization strategies and tactics. But it's interesting to think about from like a planning sort of standpoint, because there's a delicate line you got to balance between the power creep ramping up like too rapidly, such that everyone goes, I'm not going to play this game, I can't keep up with it, and like a very gentle one where it's like slow and insidious. I know I've definitely spoken about it before, but I don't know. I guess in Shiny Colors I felt it the most, because I play a lot of gacha games, and there is like sort of power creep here and there. But interestingly, in the MiHoYo games, I suppose it doesn't matter. It doesn't tend to matter as much, because it's not really a competitive game, really. Mostly you kind of play it for the single player mode. I remember there's also like a challenge mode, which you can end up defeating with probably just like normal free to play players, as long as you're smart and you like are efficient, etc., etc. But at the same time, it's sort of like it's easy to get into that sort of FOMO mindset where like, oh, you know, I'm missing out on something. Well, that kind of sucks. I don't want to miss out on extra rewards, when really the extra reward is like 1/2 of a pull or something. If you can't do the full complete everything, or if you can't full complete any of it, you miss out on, I don't know, maybe like a 10 pull every month or something. I don't actually know what the actual amounts are. Really, if anything, you're kind of incentivized more to log in every day rather than the alternative. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, it's sort of like a very delicate balance of power creep and getting to people to spend. And interestingly enough, I think with Shiny Colors I actually think we got this balance like way off with the releasing of the ultra rares. I actually think they kind of went way too far, because at least like Twilight Collection and My Song Collection and Parallel Collection were basically just variants of limited banners with restricted pools. The rates were all the same and that similar sort of thing. And it didn't feel like it was going to be too crazy to get them. But these ones, it's like the ultra rares rates are very low. I've heard that the blowback has been quite big to this, but you know, it's sort of like, if anything, a testament to how much businesses and corporations can not push the envelope, because that makes it sound like they're like, oh, changing how things are done, like cross over, step over, completely destroy the line, and people still are sort of like enraptured by it. I don't mean that as a default to the people themselves, because I mean they're kind of like lured in by psychological tactics to get people to spend on it, right? Yeah. So I don't really know what I'm interested to see what happens with it, because Shiny Colors have been just sort of trying to branch out. They made like a rhythm game. The rhythm game was not good. It's not great, I suppose. They tried to do something different. It was not that popular. They completely revamped the entire thing. I don't know how well it's doing at the moment. I think most people would still play just the base version of a game, but at the same time, it's because they've gone through so many different iterations of meta and things. How do you make a new card which stands out, which doesn't power creep? And I guess their answer is, well, let's just not do that. Let's just make it power creep, right? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I just, it's very interesting. It's fascinating. It's weird to think, how? Why? Is it like this? And the answer is, I just kind of shrug. Because I don't know. I feel like me speaking about it like this makes it almost feel like I'm being like Machiavellian, where I'm just like, oh, ha, how can I squeeze the most money out of the poor unfortunate souls who want to, I don't know, engage with us in a fair perspective. But yeah, I don't know. This definitely feels like the power balance is way off. So I don't know how it's gonna go, to be honest. Anyway, yeah, what was I gonna say about this? I don't really know. I still kind of like playing the game, but it's the sort of thing where I'm like narrowing my eyes, being like, I see the down. It's almost like you see the downfall of a roadmap. You know, company gets too greedy, game gets shut down, etc. Nothing they can do. Short-term profits made over a long-term health of a game. It's a shame, and it happens time and time again. A recurring pattern, you might say. Which ones will stand the test of time? I don't really know. I wonder what game services have lasted long enough to, I don't know if it's possible to really... Is that possible? Is it possible? I guess this is an interesting question, in the sense that, is it possible to make a game service which doesn't have power creep? Yes, obviously. You just don't put power creep in. Everything gets tuned and released to a very fine balance, and everything's kept within a very similar range, obviously. But we don't live in that world because people, I don't know. I guess that just ends up not being enough of a revenue generator or something. Or maybe it does, and I don't know, and people are just here trying to squeeze every penny out. Who knows? It's hard for me to say because, again, I'm not on the business side of many of these like game businesses or things like that. I can only really talk about more technical aspects of it and then speak more theoretically. I guess I kind of like talking about it because it kind of feels like a game theory sort of thing in a way. Where you got to sort of suspend your disbelief of... It's like playing a villain, I suppose, or an antagonist in a game, except for this is all theoretical as well, rather than actual practical. But I guess it's also like, on the other hand, it is actually something which happens in reality, which makes it feel a bit weird at the same time. But I think this goes into the same sort of category as me saying, I think we need more songs, villain songs, you know? There's a lot of songs out there about good, virtuous things to aspire to. I think that's great. But I also think there should be songs out there which tell a story from an antagonist perspective, not to glorify them, but to also, I mean, get you thinking about them in a way. Get you reflecting, in a sense. Because, I mean, we have a lot of literature from, like, the antagonist perspective. So I don't see why we couldn't have songs from the antagonistic perspective as well. But I also understand that it's not as quite a cut and dry as that, because, you know, these songs have an influence, these songs have an effect. People with their interpretations, especially those maybe who have more impressionable minds or maybe don't see beyond the greater subtext of it. And now take it as something aspirational. I mean, like, isn't that like what happened with like American Psycho and like with Joker? They're not they shouldn't be aspirational people whatsoever, but then, hey ho, somehow a lot of people end up wanting or aspiring to be like them for some reason. So, I don't know where I'm going with this, but the long and short is basically, it's interesting to think about from a game theory perspective, but I understand at the same time this is a reality of, you know, a consequence of capitalism. So, perhaps it's a bit, I guess, I'm not sure if hypocritical is the right word, because it's not exactly like I'm perpetuating the cycle, but it's a bit disingenuous, maybe a better way to put it, of me saying like I should be absolved of everything for talking about this in a theoretical way and pretending that, not pretending, but saying it's strange that you know, you find it weird if I do talk about it. For one, that's probably a straw man, because I mean I can't even hear what you're saying. But two, it's the same, it's just like, I don't know, but presumptuous of me, isn't it? Anyway, I guess a doodle would just be like a arrow going upwards. I'm not sure what I'd put as a tagline here. I'm going to put it as all in balance. All in and then imbalance. How about that? Whoa. It's like this really interesting video game analysis video I saw. I think it was by Extra Credits, I can't remember. About the delicate imbalance, which is the games are, as a service, are always put in. Like for League of Legends, they always want basically there to be sort of like a rotating seesaw of a not ever truly balanced meta, because that keeps the game engaging rather than it being a solved problem. I guess, I don't know, this is like a games as a service gacha gaming equivalent of it, but with power creep. Anyway, the long and short of it is I think they've probably gone too far, and we'll see how the community ends up reacting to this. It'll be a shame if a game shuts down more because I like the concept of a game, but if that's how it goes, that's how it goes. Anyway, at some point I need to figure out how to play Say Hello. I guess a bit of hypocrisy is the fact I'm still playing the game, despite the fact that it's sort of like an outrage, but I've, you know, long since stopped meta chasing, I suppose. So perhaps it's easier for me to take a step back. I just kind of want to see what happens, I suppose. It's a curiosity. A game study, if you will. Maybe we'll see it on the death of a game or something, or maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here, so if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.